It is time to open up the six-pack of picks for week 2 in the NFL. We've got the Thursday nighter with the Bills at the Dolphins and 5 more of our favorite picks for week 2 of the NFL season coming at you right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Big shout out to all the everydayers out there and all the new listeners to Peacock and Williamson. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast. Hit that notification bell so you know when there's a new episode up for you daily here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, here we go. Let's get into the Week 2 six-pack of picks, and it starts with our Thursday nighter, and it is Josh Allen with a funky wrist, funky hand injury. He will play at the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins at home favored by 2.5 here on a short week for both of these football teams. And the Dolphins have some injury problems of their own. So I guess we should sort of shuffle through this injury stuff before we figure out and make picks for who's going to win this game on Thursday night. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait for it. Dolphins, Bills. I love it. AFC East battle. Mentioned Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to play. This is going to, who knows if it's going to be something that affects him, but he's going to be out there. He's going to play. So that's one good bit of news for the Buffalo Bills. For the Miami Dolphins, who have a two-headed monster of starting running backs, might not have either one of them. And Raheem Mostert has already been ruled out now, Matt, as of Wednesday for the Thursday nighter. So Raheem Mostert with a chest injury has been ruled out for week 2 against the Bills. And then, and might be out next week, by the way, in week number 3. Then Devon Achane with an ankle injury. And look, this is something that dogged Achane last year as well. He was averaging 8 yards per carry as a rookie last year, but couldn't get through the season. And even splitting carries with Raheem Mostert now hasn't gotten through from week 1 to week 2, as good as they both looked in that Miami Dolphins backfield. And Devon Achane with his ankle is considered a game time decision for week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. And that happened in the fourth quarter of the game against the Jaguars for Achane. So this is interesting. Jeff Wilson is a guy that's still, been around Mike McDaniel's offense for a long time. He's a guy that's got a little bit more brutishness to his, a little more thump to his running game, can catch the ball out of the backfield. Then they got the rookie Jalen Wright as well. So a lot to wade through here when you're making a pick for a game like this. And if you're trying to figure out what to do with your fantasy football team, Matt.
Yeah, I think I'm grabbing Wright if you can off the waiver wire and paying a decent buck for him. I mean, considering that situation, I think he's kind of a direct handcuff to both Mostert and Achane. It'd be a big deal losing Achane. I mean, they really – I've been harping all offseason. One of my fantasy sleepers was Jonnu Smith because I think the Dolphins were really searching for a third receiver, whether that's Odell or Malik Washington or – I mean, all these guys they've brought in. They drafted 2 receivers. They signed Odell. They went and got Jonnu. But week 1, it was Achane. You know, they used him like as a slot receiver. I mean, they really designed receiving touches for him. So – the other backs will play either way, but he's just a dynamic third guy. I'm still going to take Miami. I know it's a night game, so it'll be a little cooler, but it's a lot hotter than Buffalo. That much I'm pretty certain about. Mm-hmm. And I do think the fatigue and team speed is something that's going to play in Miami's favor as this game goes on. But one of the biggest things I like from Miami's perspective is, unlike in previous years, I have a lot of questions at the linebacker and safety position for the Bills, middle of the field defense. And boy, is McDonald good at attacking that area of the field with crossers and putting guys in conflict. And I think Tua throwing in between the numbers could have a lot of success in this game. And I don't love Allen being injured.
Yeah, the Allen injury is really what sort of pauses things for me because, he had to account for 4 touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
For the Bills to narrowly escape the Arizona Cardinals. And the Arizona Cardinals are a team that we don't think is as good as the Miami Dolphins, and the Bills were at home for that one. So if you put the Bills on the road at Miami in a September matchup, it is a night game, but on a short week, your quarterback's kind of banged up. That's the reason that the Dolphins are favored in this one, and they're favored by 2.5. And if this creeps up over a field goal, I might go the other way because I don't like the injuries on the offense for the Miami Dolphins. But man, the Dolphins are dynamic at wide receiver too, and Tyreek Hill is just a problem. And Jalen Waddle could erupt at any time, and he narrowly had a huge game. He had a fine game. He also had an insane game too for the Dolphins in week 1. So it's not just based around Achane and Raheem Mostert in the run game. And you did mention Achane in the passing game and as a third receiver. Achane and Raheem Mostert were on the field together 54% of the time. So dual half with Achane a lot of those times lining up in the slot and just finding ways to get him the ball. So I think that's an aspect that you lose if you're the Miami Dolphins, because you don't just put in another player and have the same, they'll be fine running the ball, I think, but Jalen Wright isn't just going to line up in the slot and do what Achane is doing. I think that they have a special, combo there. I think Jalen Wright plays a lot more like Mostert than he does like Achane. So we might see Achane play and still be just sort of a third down extra guy, and they put him on the field a little bit if he's limited, and then Wilson and Jalen Wright get the carries. I also don't like Jalen Wright because Wilson is good in pass protection. He's a player that's trusted. So I don't know if Jalen Wright, you spend all your waiver wire fab on him, and then all of a sudden he's really just kind of the third running back still anyway. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but he could also go crazy and go off and, have 6 yards per carry and look a lot like Mostert and Achane and go crazy too. So I don't know what to expect there. I think the Dolphins will be fine. And I do like the Dolphins by a field goal here over the Miami Dolphins. And the line is currently 2.5. So not quite enough to scare me off the Dolphins at home on a short week against the Bills. And I'm still interested in what these teams look like when they normalize, because neither the Dolphins or the Bills impressed me so much in week 1 that I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this team right now. So, and we know that week 1 is weird, and so you don't want to put too much stock into what happens in week 1 of an NFL season. But these are two very interesting teams. I think are both going to be pretty good. I like the Dolphins more coming into the year. And again, my brand, West Coast chairman of running backs don't matter. So I don't care if it's Wilson and Jalen Wright in there. So for me, I like the Dolphins at home by a field goal.
Me too. But my last nugget, I meant to say it earlier, was I'm warming up to the Bills' weapons, Cook and Davis and Kincaid. I know he didn't do much, and the young receivers. And if Allen's right, I can see a lot of points in this game.
I'm more worried about the Bills' secondary covering.
Me too. Exactly.
Waddle and Hill. That's what I'd be worried about more than anything.
Big time.
And I think they might lean into that. Look, Tua threw for a league high 339 yards or whatever as in week 1. And now you're potentially missing both your top 2 running backs. They're going to lean into that even more.
No doubt about it.
That's where you're weak, deep down the middle of the field for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, we could see some big plays in the passing game for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
All right. That is Bills and Dolphins Thursday nighter. That's game number 1 in our week 2 6-pack of picks. We got 5 more: Raiders and Ravens. We've got Steelers at Broncos, Colts, Packers, the Malik Willis era beginning and hopefully not lasting very long for Green Bay Packers fans there. Saints, Cowboys, 2 teams that looked really hot in week 1, Giants and Commanders to finish up our 6-pack, and some interesting things potentially happening with the Browns and Deshaun Watson as well to finish up this episode. Peacock and Williamson. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You've heard us talk so much about FanDuel, and there's a reason they are America's #1 sportsbook, because of offers like this. And a little something different for you to start this NFL season. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sports book and bet on all the lines that we referenced today, which come from FanDuel. All the weekly lines at FanDuel, tons of great props, not just football, not just NFL football. You got college football lines. You've got Major League Baseball, motorsports, golf, contact sports, whatever it is, you can find it at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com. All right, here we go. Game 2 in our 6-pack of picks, and we've got your Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos, Matt, and it is the Steelers that are favored by 3 on the road in Denver, and you always talk about how early in the season it's tough to go play in Denver. Does that scare you off the Steelers, who are favored on the road in this one?
That's like the only thing that scares me, to be honest with you. Studying Denver, they are far from impressive. I'm sure Surtain will basically eliminate Pickens. I mean, he was a traveler with DK Metcalf last week. They just paid him. But the Denver run defense is really bad. And I think the Steelers are just going to put huge human beings on the field. Arthur Smith does a real good job. Well, fantasy managers hate it, but rotates the skill guys a lot. And I think rotating players on the road in this atmosphere is huge. And I think the Steeler defense is very deep to pull that off as well, especially in the front 7. So, yeah, I like the Steelers here. Expect a long day for Mike McGlinchey trying to block Watt. I also think Porter basically eliminates Sutton. And, there's not a lot of peripheral weapons on either team if Sutton and Pickens aren't doing much.
I've watched
Nick's really bad.
I've watched a lot of Mike McGlinchey in my day, and he struggles with that speed to power, and Watt is awesome and relentless. And I don't like that matchup for a rookie quarterback in the Broncos offense, even at home, because the Steelers defense is legit and for real. And I wanted to say this is a slam dunk under, but it's a pretty low under, Matt, 36.5. And I think
it's the lowest of the week.
It's definitely the lowest of the week by a lot. And I think this is one of those, 12-9 games. I mean, is it just going to be all field goals?
6 more field goals from Boswell. Yeah.
By the way, Wilson, where are we at? Fields or Wilson?
As it stands today, I'm betting on Fields, but Wilson in the big-time revenge game is going to push like crazy. Tomlin came out Tuesday, saying we're proceeding as if Fields is a starter because Wilson right now is not ready to go.
Does it matter?
I don't think it does. I was about to say, too. Like, I'm not sure it really does in this one. Don't turn the ball over, run the ball a ton, cause some turnovers,
There we go. So low scoring. I like Pittsburgh in this one as well. I think it's going to be a struggle to put points up on the board. We'll see if one of these teams can score a touchdown. But I'm still taking the under in this one. I don't like the idea of Pickens not having a big week for if you're going to take something away, so stack the box, then you shut down Pickens. What is the offense? Just Fields going to run around trying to make plays?
Yeah, not much. I think it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust and punts and field goals.
That is Steelers Broncos. Okay, so we both got the Dolphins, we both got the Steelers. How about game number 3 here, which is a pretty big line for the Baltimore Ravens at home, favored by 9.5. In fact, it's the biggest line of the week, I'm pretty sure here. Yeah. Favored at 9.5 over the visiting Las Vegas Raiders.
It's a big number. And I love that from a Ravens perspective, home opener, extra rest, a really good coaching staff, established coaching staff to fix some leaks. And I'm talking about the O-line more than anything. Get Andrews back on track. We just did a Locked On Dynasty this morning. Should I sell Mark Andrews? Is he done? Is he washed up? Forget about him. I don't think he is. But I also don't love a leaky offense trying to deal with Wilkins and Crosby in a really good front. So I think I'm going to lay the points, and Henry is leaned on, and Andrews is a good player, and they figure out some O-line stuff. And I also think Baltimore's defense is still quite good. But that's a big number. That's kind of a stay away at that number for me.
Yeah, it's a stay away for me. And I think the number is so big that it makes me want to take the Raiders. And I think the Raiders can, keep it close in an ugly game. But I wouldn't pick a Raiders upset or anything like that either. So I hate the line. I'm going to take Las Vegas just because I think it's going to be an ugly fest, and it'll be 6 or 7 point Baltimore win. Not even that they're in danger of losing the game necessarily. By the way, back-to-back Harbaughs to start the year for the Raiders.
How about that? Wonder if that's ever happened in NFL history.
And I'm going to go with the Raiders here.
I don't love the 1 o'clock start for the West Coast team, but
West Coast team traveling east. They're I guess West Coast are not quite coast. They're Nevada, but it's still quite
west to me.
Yeah, it's west for those on the east. A lot of ground to cover, an entire mountain range you have to fly over. So 41, and so that's what's that combination of pretty low 41.5 over under with a high spread. That's usually for me, an indicator of I'm gonna take the points, maybe somewhat like we saw with Cardinals Bills in week 1. Just too many points. Not that I think that the favor is in danger of losing the game, and you don't really like to have those bets. You want to feel like your underdog could win it outright, which I don't like that for the Raiders. But man, that front's legit, and that was the one thing that was working for them last week. It wasn't enough. I don't think it's going to be enough this time, but enough to keep it close and an ugly. I say ugly just because of what a score could look like. And I'm looking at that Ravens offense like it can't be just only Lamar and all Lamar all the time. So this one needs to get going in this one, and I don't want to see Justice Hill on the field 50% of the time either.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't feel great about the bet.
Next, we'll finish up our 6-pack. We got Colts at Packers. And this is the Malik Willis era that could last 3 to 6 weeks and hopefully not more. And Jordan Love is back soon from his sprained MCL. I don't like it for the Packers. We talked about how they're going to fall the most in our power rankings this week, and I haven't seen the results yet of all of our power rankings. I know
I dropped them to like 27. I dropped them really, really low. I did it last night. Okay. Yeah, I'm a quarterback.
And the Colts didn't look bad. I mean, they only lost by 2 against the Houston Texans, who everybody loves. They're the darling of the NFL. And Anthony Richardson just showed some wow plays. Can he develop a little bit more consistency? And it's at Green Bay. It's only 3 points here. I think the Packers might be in trouble, especially with the first start for Malik Willis. So I'm going to give up those points for the road team here in the Indianapolis Colts.
I am too, and I'm down on the Colts schematically, defensively, because they're like the most vanilla cover 3, like it's 10 years ago. But I don't think this quarterback can
get with the times, and he's like right. He's even moved away from cover 3 a little bit, but still, actually, you know what? I think I have the numbers. So let me find it right now.
Okay.
So week 1,
like they're very vanilla to me.
Week 1 coverage, and by the way, they couldn't stop the run last week. You were talking about coverage, but like they got to figure it out up front. By the way, Latu didn't play that much. He was just kind of like a rotational rusher. Maybe you should put him on the field in early downs and put him on the field a little more, because it's not like the guys that were on the field were stopping the run great. And he graded out really high when he was on the field. So get the rookie on the field. Let's see. Indianapolis Colts are second most in the league in cover 3. They were one of 3 teams that were over 50%. Your Steelers were actually at 50%. Browns were 51% cover 3. The Colts were 53%, second most in the NFL with cover 3 coverage, and the Carolina Panthers, who got blown out, were 58% cover 3.
Okay, but yeah, I just don't think Willis is going to exploit coverages, boring coverages. And I also think the Colts ground game will travel, and Richardson's all over the place, but I would expect a big play or 2 from him. I think the Colts cover.
And they just missed a few times, like A.D. Mitchell, a couple of, you got a young quarterback, rookie wide receiver. They just missed a few. And if they start hitting those and the Packers can't get it going offensively, and look, one of the things cover 3 defenses do is have 8 guys in the box. So what the game plan is going to be for that Colts defense. It's going to be like, we are going to load up against the run, and Malik Willis try to beat us through the air.
I don't think any of the pass catchers for Green Bay are startable in fantasy anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing that's developing. Is not only do we not know who the number 1 is, and the number 4 is pretty good, but
how many matters?
Where's the ball going to go? And it's probably going to go to them less than ever before. So I wouldn't start any of those guys right now. Mm-hmm. Next, Let's finish up our 6-pack and some interesting developments going on with Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns potentially getting out of that albatross of a contract next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is sponsored by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. Maybe you just need some wiper blades or jumper cables for, the winter months. You can find all of it at eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car into the MVP. Bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Two teams that got off to a really hot start in week one, Matt. It is the New Orleans Saints visiting the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, even though the Saints whipped up on their opponent in week one, Cowboys at home are favored by 6.5 points.
So I think we had overreaction Tuesday. I think it was yesterday. And I think we could both potentially overreact to these two week one's game. They may have been one of their best performances of the year. That being said, I love Micah Parsons and Zimmer together. I mean, all the stuff that they're going to do with him, and the Saints O-line wasn't challenged against a terrible Panthers team who, oh, by the way, lost their best player for the year, Derek Brown. I mean, it's going to be an awful year for Carolina. So I think Parsons could be the MVP of this game and wreak havoc. I'm still taking the points, though. I think the Saints D is pretty solid. I'm not saying I back Derek Carr, but I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks, performance of week one. And I think you get Olave, get going. I think they'll keep it close.
You don't give him extra credit for playing a bad opponent, and it looked like the Panthers were bad, so it's not like I'm going to jump on the New Orleans Saints bandwagon right now. But I don't expect them to be an awful team. I don't expect them to be a great team, but they performed well, too. They had the opportunity, and they took it. And look, it's not like the Cowboys went up against a juggernaut in week one because the Browns looked awful against them too. So I really don't want to know. And, if one of these teams emphatically beats the other, then I think we could start to draw some conclusions on how these teams are playing right now. I'm with you, though. I mean, I hate agreeing with you every time, but points are a little high. I like the Cowboys in this game. I would probably stay away from it and use it as a learning experience. And you mentioned Parsons. If it wasn't for TJ Watt in week one, Parsons probably was the most dominating defensive player on the field. Yeah. And it's not like it's unexpected for those two players to be that dominating, right? Like that, they're two of the better defensive players in the NFL, and so that's hard to deal with. It's going to be much more difficult, probably for both these teams, especially for the Saints going up against a formidable opponent in the Dallas Cowboys. So I wouldn't put money on it. I will take the points though in a game that I think could go probably the Cowboys' favor, but I'm not going to say they're slam dunk to win by a touchdown.
Okay, I hear you.
Cowboys by 6, I'll put that way. New York Giants at the Washington Commanders, two teams that are near the bottom of our power rankings. The Commanders are favored by 1.5 points at home, which is pretty telling because they're starting a rookie quarterback and they're under-talented in a few units on their football team. But the New York Giants laid an egg, and it's never great when when the first question for the head coach after a football game like Brian Dable is, are you going to bench your veteran starting quarterback?
Not great. I'm taking the Giants to win, though. I really have problems with the Washington O-line, and I do think Thibodeau, Burns, Lawrence are the best unit in this bad game. I know Jones is bad, but I don't know that he's that bad, and I think Neighbors and slot machine like Wan'Dale Robinson should be able to move the ball reasonably well. I power ranked the Giants ahead of Washington just last night. So I know it's on the road, but I'll take the points, but I'm going to take the money line.
We're taking a lot of...
no, I thought you'd go Washington.
We're taking a lot of road teams here, but I can't agree with you on this one. I'm going to take
Washington
just because I have no idea. And I think there are enough tricks up Washington's sleeve here, and I've been kind of a hater on the New York Giants, and so I'm just going to continue it and
I've
say,
noticed.
like, what do you? It's offensive to me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? I'm looking at you, Joe Shane, Brian Dable. What are you guys doing? And maybe it's a blessing if they get fired because maybe it's ownership. It's not allowing them to do what they want to do, which happens in the NFL. And I feel like there is ownership oversight on the quarterback specifically. There's some other weird stuff that's happened. But they feel a little bit like the Raiders, where it's like, oh, man, okay, you got a couple of good pieces up front. But where's the rest of the football team? Like, what's the plan? How long is it going to take you to exercise this plan? And are those defensive players even going to be around by the time you got everything else figured out to be a good football?
Yeah, I don't. The Raiders are a good example. I don't think either one has a great plan. And, I watched some of the Hard Knocks offseason stuff, and it didn't ring with more confidence in what the leadership of the Giants front office at all. Although I do think Dable's a good coach, but swimming upstream to say the least.
Absolutely. So the one thing you think you have an advantage if you go play a team with a rookie quarterback is quarterback. They don't have that, and they're on the road. Division rival.
Could be a lot of running quarterback plays in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Over under on quarterback rushing yards combined 160.
110. We're in the same neighborhood then. Okay, yeah.
How about this one? So Deshaun Watson, another accuser. I mean, just the Deshaun Watson situation is insane. I want to, because I don't have all the details on this. That he's been the 20 whatever accusations and lawsuits that are already levied on him in the past. There's another woman that has stepped forward from the same era, from something from 2020 that happened with him in a date situation. By the way, this isn't one of the the massage situations that Deshaun Watson has been dealing with. But the interesting part of it from a contract football perspective, Matt, and let me go to the article here, is that Sports Illustrated, Connor Orr kind of went into this and went into some details about how they have a copy of Deshaun Watson's contract, and you knew there was going to be some language in this contract. So apparently there's language in the Browns contract. And by the way, the fact that all of a sudden this contract is in the hands of reporters tells me a great deal about the Browns wanting that contract to be in the hands of reporters. If Watson is suspended for an incident that he failed to disclose to the team, because this has happened before he signed. Right?
I didn't know that angle. Okay.
It triggers a default and potentially, and by the way, Deshaun Watson carries $72.9 million cap hit in 2025 and 2026. And according to the article, let's see, it's possible that a suspension, if one is imposed, could give the Browns a path toward voiding his remaining guarantees, which would make it very easy to end that relationship for Watson and the Browns. And they'd be on the hook for some money, but if they could get a lot of the guarantees or even half the guarantees away, and they might try to get out of it, and even with all the guarantees, with how bad things have gone, this would give the Browns an out. And I think the Browns would take that immediately and pull that cord.
Yes. I mean, to the point where, let's not take this the wrong way, but it smells a little bit like Senator Geary going to the Corleone's whorehouse and getting in trouble, and then has to come crawling back.
I got to brush up on my Godfather.
Oh, let's just say that Michael and company had it work to their favor. Used his weaknesses against him.
Yes.
I think the Browns would be thrilled, frankly. I mean, I'm not making light of the young lady at all, by the way. I mean,
and that's the biggest part of this. But from the football perspective, and I don't know any of the details of any more of this. It was ridiculous what the Browns did in the first place. We knew that. We knew it beforehand. The Browns were desperate. They wanted to find a quarterback. It was insane what all went down and all the guarantees they threw on that contract to go get a quarterback that they thought was going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. And now that he's a bottom 5 quarterback in the league, the way he's played so far for the Browns, a bad contract got so much worse. And if they can find any way to wiggle out of it in a better way, they will absolutely do it in this case.
100%.
And one of the business aspects of it that I think is interesting is Deshaun Watson's agent did a great job and held the Browns' hand over the coals, right? So it's not like the Browns are going to feel bad in this because, they got taken advantage of with the situation they were in, and they will not feel bad doing the other way and say, look, we found a loophole. We're getting the heck out of this contract.
That being said, the other 31 owners are not going to do the Browns any favor. They were not happy with making making him the first, real quick. The commissioner works for 32 owners. 31 owners were unhappy about this move by the Browns, and they are not going to get any presents. Yeah.
Could they pressure the league into saying, let's let him squirm a little bit longer on this contract?
Yeah. And I know that you can put him like on commissioner exempt lists and all these. There's a lot of lists for these
suspension.
Things. Yeah.
That's interesting. Like
you gotta pay him.
Corleone stuff there too.
Oh yeah. Like Don Barzini did us wrong. We're not helping him out at all. Right?
Just a stupid story, the whole Watson thing that we should never even have to talk about.
And he's really bad at football.
He's been awful. He's been and clearly like whatever's gone on off the field has affected him too. And like don't feel bad for him one bit, right?
No, right. Couldn't help having to do a worse guy. Right.
But that's that. I'm sure there'll be more reporting on Deshaun Watson and the Browns, but potentially an out for the worst contract in NFL history. And we'll see how that goes. That is the first 6 games of week 2. Tomorrow, we will get into our mailbag. So continue those questions. Get them into us every week at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Drop a question in the YouTube comments. And that's tomorrow. Then Friday, we'll come back and make the picks for the rest of week 2 right here. Peacock and Williamson.